Hey everyone, thanks for stopping in. So I've had a bunch of saws come in the last couple days. To start with, we have this MS170 that won't shut off with the switch. That's the one that we're going to start with right now. Let's see what else we have. MS250 with a running issue, an MS170 in a bucket, Husqvarna 445. I don't know why that's here. I don't normally work on Husqvarna for you, but I can if you want me to. Let me know. I've got a Stihl 271. This thing was ran over by the guy's tractor, broken handle, needs a service. I've got a Stihl 036 with a running issue. Echo CS 600P won't start. Cub blower won't start. A Stihl 028 with a running issue. I stepped out for 2 minutes yesterday and 4 saws came in. So let's start right here. I'll see you at the workbench. Good afternoon. Welcome back to my workbench. Today we are here with the final MS170 of the 3 that we had lined up over there. This is the one that wouldn't shut off with the switch. Last week you came along with me as we stripped down an MS290 and performed an autopsy. We determined the spark plug to be the cause of death. If you missed that video on the Stihl MS290, you'll want to go back and see it. I will leave a link in the description box below, and I'll leave a link in the comments. I spoke to the family again, and they requested an immediate burial in the Chainsaw cemetery. I took care of that this morning. I'll show you a clip right now. Let's get down to business. So this MS170, the customer said that it won't shut off with the switch. Look it over, give it what it needs, and the chain is loose. Okay, let's get into it. So sometimes I get these 170s and 180s in with the complaint that they run, but they won't shut off. So this is a bit of a common issue. I've seen it lots, and I'm sure some of you that own these saws have seen it before. So for those of you who haven't seen this, we're going to find out what the problem is. The master control lever here, if I move it, or try to, so I can't put it in the choke position, it will move up into the off position, but something's wrong with it. It doesn't feel right. So let's take this top cover off. I'm going to turn this over on its side and try to get in here close enough that you can see what I can see. This is a tight little spot to look into. Nope, there we go. Let me grab my pointer. So you see that, my finger in the way. You see that spring right there. And you see this groove slot in the crankcase. So the master control lever, it's kind of a rod in behind here. It's supposed to be down in that hole, and it's just popped out of there. I don't know what causes this. I don't know if a person, forcing this up pops it out of there, because we do see this quite often. It's not a big deal. There's nothing broken here. It's just popped out of place. I have another MS170 sitting right here beside me. Let me bring it in. So there's your spring. And you can't see the gap because the control lever is popped down in place there. So there's what it should look like. The little spring is making contact, which is what shuts it off with the switch. And there's the one that's not in place. As I'm going to push this back down into the slot, I'm going to use this little screwdriver and just keep that spring up. It's easy to push this down and the spring will kind of go down with it out of position, and then you'll still have a problem. Very easy to do. So hold that up. Okay, so it's back in its slot. The spring is up on top. I want to make sure. The spring is up here and didn't go down in here. So when you move the operator, the master control lever to the off position, you're going to see what that spring does. Okay, so that's off. And then when you go to start it again, I put it down to choke. There's choke position, high idle position, run, off. Let me just zoom out here a bit. So if I was putting this up to off position, maybe I was being a bit rammy. Maybe I had big, thick gloves on. And I'm pushing it up. And I'm maybe pushing down on it at the same time. Look at that. It's popped out again. So, I mean, you're plastic and plastic. This saw is very dirty and gritty. So, I mean, there could be some wear in this little plastic slot here. But you see how easily I can push that out if I push sideways. But if that happens, just hold your spring up out of the way. Pop it back down in. Just go through the motions. There, it's all working again. So If you have an MS170 or 180 that won't shut off with the switch, and this lever doesn't feel right, that's probably your problem right there. Take your top cover off and just have a look down in there and see. Move your spring up or hold it up and pop that down in place. Okay, we have resolved that issue, I think. We're going to find out. I want to take it outside and start it, but it's here for service as well. So I'm going to pull the bar and chain off of it. I have to look at them anyways. And then we'll pop outside, fire it up, and make sure it starts, or make sure I can shut it off with the switch. This thing is dirty and gritty. Geez, what's he been doing with this? Like trenching? I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings when I make my little smart-ass comments about these saws. As I take them apart, I'm saying what's going through my mind. And it's not to insult anybody or hurt anybody. I'm just telling you what I think as I see stuff, and what I think right now is, ew. A lot of my customers know when they drop something off like this, they'll sometimes right up front say, I am so sorry. Some of them are embarrassed, but it is what it is. And they bring them to me to be cleaned, to be fixed, because that's what I do. This is not to hurt anybody's feelings. This is not to out anybody or throw anybody under the bus. This is me servicing and cleaning dirty saws. The customers and I have good laughs about this afterwards. A lot of them want to see their saws filmed. Some guys bring me their saws and say, please make a YouTube video about it. So I don't get too many comments about this, but the odd person says, you know, you shouldn't be speaking about your customer that way. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I have a customer who has an MS290, and it is the filthiest, dirtiest saw I've ever seen. And it comes in the odd time for something. I hope it comes in again soon so I can show you this saw. It looks like it sat at the bottom of a lake and then was parked underneath his maple tree for the last 10 years. It runs and works, but it is the filthiest, dirtiest thing. You can't even tell the saw is orange. But you're going to see the dirtiest, filthiest, most abused and neglected equipment on this channel. And I'm going to show you all of it. So don't go anywhere. Well, enough about my feelings. Let's make sure there's gas in this. Let's put the top cover on and let's go start it up. Let's check the fuel in this saw. See if there's fuel in it. Oh yeah, it's a full tank of something. Just dump it out and have a quick look. Can you see that? There's a lot of dirt in that fuel. Let me just dump it into a glass jar so we can get a better look. This container was clean when I used it, so a little bit stayed in there. So this customer said to go over this saw completely, give it what it needs, get it ready for work, clean it up. I don't like all the dirt in that fuel. There's some dirt in the tank. I'm going to flush the tank out and just put some fresh fuel in it. Put a bit of gas in the tank. Lid on. Well, let me look at that. There's still dirt in there. All right, let's flush it out once more. Geez, wonder how we pulled this one off. Just have a look in there. Yeah, it looks clean in there now. I think we got it all out. Okay, we'll put some fresh fuel in it, and then we'll check the bar oil. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm so excited to hear it run. But while I'm here, let's throw a new fuel filter in it. He did want it fully serviced. I've noticed with these MS170s in particular, when you have the fuel line out, you put a new filter on it. When you put it back in the tank, just look down in there and make sure the filter drops down and faces the back, because you can get a kink in the line. This one is back down in there. It looks good. That was Erica's tech tip of the day. Now we will check the bar oil. Yep, there's enough in there, about half a tank. I'll pop the top cover back on. So if you've seen my last MS170 video, the one that had the air filter all curled up, filthy, we looked at the top cover and I showed you how this is where your air filter seals. And I said there shouldn't be dirt in there. Dirt in here is to be expected, but not in there. And look at how clean this is. Let's pop over to the door, fire this thing up, make sure the stop switch is working again, and then we'll bring it back over here, service it, and clean it up. I'll see you over there. Okay, so it starts, it runs, it oils, and it shuts off at the switch again. So let's clean this thing up and service it. So his air filter, this is quite normal. He probably cleans it or has replaced it. I have nothing terrible to say about this. Surprised, eh? Let's pull that plug out. Spark plug looks fine. Bosch, probably the original plug. But he wanted a new one, new filters. So I'll put a new one in it, and I'll just give this back to him, and he can keep it as a spare plug. Since we're standing here, let's take 2 seconds and go down the hole. New spark plug, NGK BPMR 7A, gapped properly. I'm going to pop over to the air compressor and I'll plug that hole, the intake, and I'll give this saw a bit of a cleaning off. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back from the air compressor. Gave this thing a bit of a cleaning. I'm going to put a new air filter in this saw. In a previous MS170 video, I mentioned that there are 2 different MS170 air filters. I call them older and newer. This is what I call a newer one, and that's the newer filter. This is the older one, and it just doesn't fit properly. So there's a difference up in here, and there's a difference in that hole as well. You can see the difference in these. If you ever need a filter for your 170, not a bad idea to take your filter with you to the dealer, and then they can easily give you the right one. Pop the top cover back on. I did clean that up while I was at the compressor. Okay, so let's grease the clutch bearing. Quick look in here, clutch springs, looking for any damage or wear. Everything looks really good in there. Put a bit of grease on this bearing. Just take a quick peek at that spark arrestor. Sometimes you can, with a flashlight, you can look through little holes and see in there. And I can see through there, and I can see the spark arrestor, and it is spotless clean. If you couldn't see, or you suspected that it was all plugged up, then you'd take this off, which we've done in previous MS170 videos, but this one's clean, so we won't remove it. I'm going to recommend to him that he replace this drum sprocket. You can see the wear on the teeth. He's been cutting dirt with this. The bar and chain, I'm going to show you that closer in a minute. Everything is full of grit. It's just like sandpaper. So he'll probably replace this, but I'll call him first. Ultimately, it's up to him. I've seen 10-year-old MS170s with the original drum sprocket not have wear like this. But when you get cutting dirt and grit, it just wears everything very quickly. So I've heard of this up here where we get, freezing temperatures. I've heard of people needing to access their septic tanks in the winter and using a chainsaw to access it. Now, that's not what happened here because this is October, but just something you guys in the warmer climates may not have heard of. Chainsawing your way into your septic tank. Let's have a look at the bar and chain and the sprocket and the clutch cover. I'm going to go over and clean this up. Like, that's not even sawdust. That's just dirt. I think he's been trenching with it. Wonder if you can hear this. The grit. It's like sandpaper. You could probably use a bar and chain as well. If this saw could sing a song to its owner, it would probably sing Dirty Work by Steely Dan. I'm a fool to do your dirty work. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I've got this clutch cover cleaned up. Let's put the bar and chain on. He's likely getting a new bar and chain, but I think he recently came in and bought a bar and chain for this, so I'm going to call him. But for now, just to fire this up with a bar and chain on it, I'm going to throw it back on. Our cutters facing the right direction. We're on the sprocket properly. Gritty. Throw the clutch cover back on. We'll tension this chain. Hold up on the bar while you do this. Once you find the tension you want, keep holding up on it and finish tightening your bar nuts down. You may hear other noises in the background here. While I work on these little chainsaws, Tyler is working on crusty old snowblowers. Okay. Chain brake is working. The chain rolls, but it's gritty and crusty. We're nearing the finish line here with this. New spark plug, new air filter, new fuel filter, fresh fuel, dirt cleaned out of the tank. There's bar oil in it, and it's oiling. We've checked the spark arrestor. We know it needs a bar and chain, and we know it needs a drum sprocket. So let's go outside, fire it up one last time. I'll see you there. Okay, so this little Stihl MS170 starts good, it runs good, it shuts off with the switch again. We've serviced it, we've cleaned some junk out of the fuel tank, new spark plug, new fuel filter, new air filter. He'll get all his old parts back if he wants them. I gave him a call and he has a brand new bar and chain at home for it. And I'm going to replace the drum sprocket while it's here. So I think this saw is ready to go back out to work. I have a lot of saws waiting for me. And while filming this, I've had a 271 and a 461 dropped off. So it is piling in here faster than I can take care of it. So I'm going to take a quick break, grab a coffee, and get back to it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next chainsaw.